Yes. Well, winter's back. Yeah. I actually spent a lot of the time yesterday indoors with a hat on just to keep my bonds warm. Anyway, you never know. By the weekend we might get some sunshine again. Oh well, it'll be bad for the harvest. Joys. Anyway, yesterday we had the wonderful sight of the entire victimhood that is Nigel Farage being victim-hooded once again, simply because something hasn't been perfect for him. It must be awful being Nigel Farage, one of the most successful politicians of the last 40 years, and yet he's still a miserable man. There's quite a lot of it around. There's quite a lot of miserable people in and around the Cass report. You would have thought with the Cass report that various people would be very, very pleased because they've, in inverted commas, won, but obviously it isn't enough for them. There's the wonderful sight of Father Ted, who won an award and, yes, decided to use his victory speech to simply have a go at all the people who'd fecked him around. Oh no, hang on, that's just a story. I'm thinking of Graham Linehan. Yes, of course, who has now decided that, having been vindicated, that other people aren't doing enough to be lovely to him. So he's now decided that Gary Lineker, for reasons that can only really be known to him and his grifter friends, wasn't supportive enough in the past. Naturally, so of course he's going to have a go at them. Another victim of this yesterday was Kirsty Allsop, who cannot be regarded in any way, shape or form as a woke or left-wing individual, but the mere fact that she has stated that she doesn't entirely hate 100% trans people meant that she's had a pile on. It might be interesting to see her being interviewed in the future about this, but obviously she won't be a victim because anyone that's a trans ally is bad. A mutilator, a castrator, a nonce who has questionable motives. And if you want to catch Graham Linehan on Twitter in the wee hours of the morning, you can find out all about that. Not that the guy's bitter, you understand. Yeah, we had a lot of that yesterday. Spiked, of course, managed to join in with the whole now we need to attack schools bit, which still waiting for that to actually happen. I think it will, because as various people have pointed out, rather than talking about 1 in 4 children being in poverty, we can talk about 0.02% of school children who may be questioning their gender identity. One of those two figures is quite important, and it sure as hell isn't the poverty one. In fact, let's not mention it at all. It'd be an awful lot easier. We can talk about the real issues in the real world. Yes, especially on Twitter in the wee hours of the morning. Yes. And lastly, there's a kind of apogee yesterday, which I found gobsmacking, was your friend, Joyce Gender, Joyce Gender, yeah, Helen, her, cropped up on the Lotus Eaters. Now, this is a woman, right, who positions herself as a stout defender of women's rights, a bit like some of the others, okay? But let's accept that she's actually reasonably academic and well-read, etc., 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 okay? Let's be quite generous to her, okay? So here she goes to sit in a leather armchair, and I do love this shot because it makes it look like they're sat uncomfortably close to each other, which if you watch the video, you might as well, because I've struggled with it, one might say. But she actually was obviously sort of quite unsure about being there, as rightly she should, because the Lotus Eaters is run by Carl Benjamin, and I know I call him a rape apologist, except he's not a rape apologist. He's merely an apologist for his own attitudes towards women, which are astounding. He was actually melting down yesterday because apparently his beloved little toy Warhammer figures, I'm a 40-year-old odd bloke and I still play with little toys. Yeah, and it's fine to do that, but anyone that does that basically hasn't metaphorically moved on from being 8. There's no problem with having a hobby, but, Carl, yeah, you don't melt down, mate, simply because times have moved on and they've put a girl somewhere where they shouldn't. And worse than that, some of them have come out in bright rainbow colours. Dreadful. Imagine gay people playing Warhammer. It shouldn't be allowed. Anyway, That's Carl for you. But anyway, he runs that particular show, and he has Connor as his kind of one of his main guys. When, of course, some of the other guys can't actually stand for reform because they're a bit dodgy. Says it all, really. But anyway, Connor is a good old-fashioned Catholic boy. Old-fashioned what I mean by that, of course, is he has appalling attitudes towards things like gay people, abortion, and generally women's rights. So here's Helen having a chat with him, and this is an astounding little thing. You can find this on Twitter. As I say, you can watch the whole video. I don't necessarily recommend it because it is quite squirm-inducing, but where they discuss about the allyship of Matt Walsh. For those of you that don't know Matt Walsh, do look him up. You'll find quite a lot of entries on him. Self-described theological fascist who is about as much of a walking definition of misogyny as you can find. But she has to admit that, well, he has done quite a lot of good, raising the issue of trans, even though she doesn't particularly think that young people are necessarily going to be turned on by him. No, projectile vomited turned on, maybe. That would be about it. I know that's the way that I feel about him. I mean, I'm not really a keen advocate of violence against people, but those kind of characters, I'm prepared to walk round the corner while someone else deals with them, to be quite honest. It's just odious human beings that spew hate into young people's minds. But never mind that. Here's Helen saying, he's one of us at heart. No, they're not, okay? All right? And I think the sooner that people start to wake up to this stuff, and hopefully with the exposure that J.K. Rowling's been having with her definitely not being a Holocaust denier, no, just kind of bending things, and Glinner perhaps getting a bit more attention, we might actually start to see some of these people decide to pull their horns in slightly. Because when you look at these people, and what they are furthering through these processes, it sure as hell isn't women's rights. Posey Parker is now on the bandwagon in terms of trying to get Gillick competency done for, which would spell disaster for so many young women. Still, she's not a feminist, so that's okay, I suppose, yeah? So long as we're kicking down on the right 0.5% of the population, everyone will be happy. I mean, not them, obviously, but, we can afford to lose those for the greater good. The greater good, of course. Anyway, do have a lovely day, and if you are going to accept a award, don't use it to attack other people. Oh no, it's still Father Ted, isn't it? Anyway, yeah, try and have a nice one. Yeah, I'm going to wrap up before I go out, I think.